The Iraqi Dinar Today latest news. Welcome back to the program, where we methodically examine the most significant currency developments that are consistently shaping the complex global financial updates of our time. Before we delve into the details of today's astonishing report, we implore every one of our viewers to focus intensely on the information that is about to unfold. This story is highly unusual, not only for the manner in which it surfaced, but for the sheer depth of the internal preparations it describes. It may prove to be one of the most consequential narratives we have ever presented on this channel, touching upon the mechanics of sovereign monetary policy on an international scale. This is not mere speculation. This is a comprehensive look behind a curtain that was absolutely never meant to be drawn back for public viewing, involving a currency that has been the focus of intense economic debate for years. Imagine the countless individuals who have patiently waited for a country's currency to fundamentally reset its value, a process that can take many years, sometimes even spanning across decades of economic cycles. Then, quite unexpectedly, a highly sensitive internal document surfaces, one that was explicitly drafted and circulated only within the highest echelons of a major financial institution, never intended for the eyes of the public, the general press, or the broader investment community. This document, in its meticulous detail, appears to quietly affirm the long-held hopes of many observers, outlining a planned revaluation process, specifying the necessary system upgrades, highlighting extensive international coordination efforts, and detailing the controlled rollout steps that align perfectly with the theoretical roadmaps previously discussed only by elite economists in closed-door sessions. This is precisely the extraordinary situation that has just come to light concerning the Vietnamese dong. Our report today focuses entirely on this stunning leak, an internal banking memorandum that provides what many analysts are calling the clearest and most concrete evidence to date that Vietnam is actively making preparations for a fundamental monetary transformation. If you have been accustomed to the usual circulating rumors and general chatter within the global currency discussion space, we urge you to treat this event differently. The sheer professional and technical nature of the document elevates it far above the level of typical hearsay. By the conclusion of this extensive segment, you will fully grasp why seasoned currency analysts are now confidently stating that this development brings us closer than ever before to witnessing a true, substantial revaluation of the dong, and why the geopolitical and financial implications extend far beyond the borders of Vietnam itself, connecting directly to global markets, major international banking firms, and even to the parallel story of the Iraqi dinar, which we monitor so closely here. Prepare yourself for a complete breakdown of what is being characterized as an unexpectedly large and meticulously planned event. To properly start our analysis, we must first establish the true provenance and core content of this leaked communication, as this is the origin point of the massive shockwave currently reverberating through financial circles. This document was decidedly not a grainy photograph of a computer screen pulled from social media, nor was it an unsourced anecdote passed around in an online chat room. It was, according to the available information, a formal internal communication commissioned and created by a prominent Vietnamese financial entity, a comprehensive internal briefing explicitly drafted for the exclusive review of senior bank executives and their staff, strictly forbidden from public disclosure or distribution to external investors. The level of detail alone validates its internal purpose, as the memo meticulously outlines preparations that have reportedly been underway for several weeks, or potentially even months. These detailed preparations cited in the document encompass a wide range of critical actions necessary for a currency shift of this magnitude. They include a significant overhaul of core digital systems, comprehensive internal testing of new exchange rates, deep coordination with key international banking partners, and extensive mandatory training sessions for frontline staff to manage the intricacies of an imminent and complex currency adjustment, Crucially, the internal language deployed throughout the memorandum strongly suggests that it was crafted under the assumption of absolute secrecy, adding immense weight to its current public impact. This is precisely why its leak is generating such extraordinary attention and concern within official financial channels. When central banking systems worldwide begin the process of preparing for a monetary revaluation, they adhere to an unwritten rule of complete discretion, running elaborate simulations and making profound digital changes in silence. The documented pre-release actions mentioned in the memo fall perfectly in line with this standard operating procedure for a systemic shift. Central banks routinely update their proprietary software platforms, conduct exhaustive simulation drills to assess market impact, rigorously check liquidity pools across all major currency pairs, coordinate seamlessly with their established foreign partner institutions, and quietly test electronic rate boards that will carry the new values. Every single one of these preparatory actions was referenced, item by item, within the pages of this internal leak, establishing a blueprint of current operational activity. The memo explicitly confirms that the nation's central bank is preparing for a significant adjustment to the official valuation of the Vietnam dong. This adjustment is clearly stated to be neither a minor tweak, nor a mere symbolic gesture, nor is it classified as part of a typical, routine system maintenance or inflation-based modification. Instead, the language used is unambiguous and powerful. The document labels the upcoming event a major valuation reset, a descriptor that immediately signals an undertaking far more substantial than any regular, incremental modification designed to account for standard inflationary pressures. This precise internal terminology is what lends the leak its authoritative force, as it directly confirms an aggressive, high-level internal preparation process, completely replacing mere speculation and wishful thinking with documentation of executive action. This singular confirmation dramatically alters the tenor of the entire global currency conversation surrounding the dong. This is not just about a technical change. It is about a fundamental shift in the stated financial position of a major developing economy, one that has global implications. Now, let us examine the strategic and highly significant reference to 2025, a date that is increasingly recurring not only within the forecasts of independent economists and analysts, but now, evidently, within this internal bank documentation itself. Vietnam has been undergoing a quiet, yet incredibly rapid, economic ascent behind the scenes, a pace of growth that has been historically underestimated by many of the established global markets and financial institutions. The country's manufacturing sector is now demonstrably thriving. Major foreign multinational corporations are aggressively relocating production facilities into Vietnam. Export volumes have seen a massive surge, and the adoption of advanced digital banking technologies has expanded to levels that rival and in some cases surpass those seen in fully developed nations. When any nation sustains this specific profile of consistent, profound, long-term economic growth and structural modernization, its sovereign currency must eventually be adjusted to accurately reflect that massive underlying progress. The memo strongly suggests that Vietnam has reached this critical economic inflection point, where the existing currency valuation has become an outdated liability. For a period spanning several years, the Vietnam dong has been considered significantly undervalued, particularly when its nominal exchange rate is cross-referenced against the country's impressive gross domestic product and robust national production numbers. Numerous economic specialists have argued for years that the dong should inherently command a greater value than its current market rate reflects. The recently surfaced internal memo directly validates this expert assessment, explicitly stating that the currency's current official value no longer accurately corresponds with Vietnam's powerful and sustained national growth indicators. This suggests that the central bank is finally poised to enact a definitive correction, rebasing the currency to ensure it provides a more authentic and truthful reflection of Vietnam's substantial real economic standing in the world. Furthermore, adding a layer of strategic timing to this development, several major new international partnerships and substantial trade agreements are scheduled to become fully operational and take effect throughout 2025. This carefully selected timing likely provides a key rationale for the chosen revaluation window. If a country is determined to fundamentally adjust the value of its sovereign currency, the most financially sound moment to execute such a complex maneuver is when global economic conditions are at their most robust, stable, and strategically aligned to absorb the shock of a major shift. Based on the confluence of geopolitical, trade, and financial trends currently in play, the year 2025 appears to have been strategically identified as the optimal and preferred window for this massive monetary shift to occur. Should these extensive internal preparations genuinely culminate in a formal revaluation, it will unequivocally represent the largest, most significant adjustment in Vietnam's entire currency history, establishing a completely new benchmark for its participation in international trade and finance, and changing the valuation landscape for all global currency holders. One of the most revealing and operationally critical sections of the leaked memo is the extensive description of the prospective phased rollout process. Banks never attempt a major currency revaluation instantaneously or overnight without a comprehensive, pre-approved implementation strategy. Every significant currency adjustment in modern history has been executed via coordinated, deliberate phases. Vietnam, as detailed in the internal document, appears to be adopting a similarly structured and phased approach. The memo describes a potential execution model that involves two distinct critical stages. The initial phase is designed to be a soft launch, introducing new digital adjustments across the banking network and quietly circulating lower denomination notes designed for the updated value. These smaller notes are traditionally employed by nations preparing to gradually and systematically retire older, heavily undervalued notes, slowly removing them from circulation over time. Simultaneously, digital systems must be extensively upgraded to handle the new exchange rates seamlessly, preventing any potential bottlenecking or overwhelming of the physical bank branches during the initial transition period. The subsequent and final phase is described as focusing intensely on the complete withdrawal of the old notes and ensuring that only the newly valued currency dominates national and international circulation. This phase is explicitly mandated to be slow, deliberate, extremely careful, and subject to continuous, high-level monitoring to ensure total compliance and stability. The internal communication strongly emphasizes the paramount importance of preventing any form of chaos, maintaining absolute financial stability throughout the transition, and executing every single stage of the process with almost military precision and accuracy. The ultimate goal is a clean break from the old valuation with minimal public disruption. The leaked information further confirms crucial coordination with key foreign banking counterparts, a detail which strongly indicates that international currency holders, including those residing completely outside of Vietnam, would be fully accommodated to exchange their holdings through recognized, proper banking channels once the new value is officially active and recognized globally. This coordination is a momentous step, signifying that the revaluation is not merely intended as a domestic, localized event, but is being engineered for global acceptance. Another compelling detail that immediately caught the attention of veteran currency analysts is the memo's clear and specific reference to established tiers and corresponding access levels for different categories of currency holders. This concept is not unprecedented in the context of wide-scale currency reform processes globally. It suggests a structured approach to managing the massive volume of exchange requests expected. Higher-tier holders, which typically include major financial institutions, larger correspondent banks, significant corporate investors, or individual holders who have meticulously registered their holdings and maintained impeccable financial records, may be granted earlier, prioritized access to the updated exchange rates or specialized exchange channels. Conversely, lower tier or less prepared individual holders may be required to wait until the general public rollout phases are officially declared. The memo unequivocally stresses that maintaining proper documentation, providing clear proof of legal purchase, ensuring proof of currency authenticity, and possessing clean, established banking relationships will be the absolute foundational keys for ensuring a swift, smooth, and problem-free exchange process when the time comes. This detailed preparation reflects an understanding of human nature and market mechanics, where anticipation can lead to a sudden and overwhelming surge in transaction requests. The internal wording indicates that Vietnam's central bank is committed to a streamlined revaluation, designed specifically to proactively mitigate the risk of financial bottlenecks, widespread public confusion, or panic-driven queues at physical locations. This strategic goal necessitates a system capable of swiftly and accurately identifying and processing legitimate, properly documented currency holders. Furthermore, the memo gives extraordinary emphasis to the role of advanced digital banking infrastructure. Vietnam has invested significant capital and resources into modernizing its digital finance sector over the past half-decade, and that foresight appears to be reaching its intended operational peak. The document explicitly explains that electronic exchange mechanisms may be made available the very instant the new official rate goes live, a transformative approach that dramatically contrasts with the slow, cumbersome, and paper-intensive in-person revaluations that characterized currency shifts decades ago. A digital first rollout is positioned as the core strategy to make the entire historically complex process fundamentally faster, demonstrably cleaner, and exponentially more efficient for the majority of holders. The reliance on advanced technology, coupled with the detailed procedural planning, leads to the powerful conclusion that, if this leak is confirmed as accurate, we may be observing one of the most thoroughly organized and painstakingly designed revaluations ever to be undertaken by a sovereign nation in the modern financial era. This comprehensive, systemic preparedness indicates a profound commitment to stability and control, aiming to ensure that the transition enhances, rather than disrupts, Vietnam's rapidly increasing standing on the global economic stage. The sheer scale and meticulousness of the preparation are remarkable, even for a planned currency overhaul. Another major point of immense focus within the confidential document centers on the speculative but important topic of the potential value range the Vietnam dong could ultimately achieve once the revaluation process is fully executed. Crucially, and in keeping with standard central banking practice, the memo does not disclose a final, definitive rate. The ultimate exchange number is invariably guarded as a state secret until the precise moment of official release. However, what it does reveal is even more compelling: the internal testing parameters. According to the document, the dong's anticipated new valuation is being rigorously tested in internal simulation models at levels several times higher than the currency's current official trading rate. These confidential internal test ranges appear to span anywhere from a conservative 3-fold increase to a more aggressive 5-fold increase, with the final rate being contingent upon subsequent analysis of the global market reaction and the readiness of major international banks to integrate the substantial adjustment. For anyone currently holding the Vietnam dong, this is the type of granular information that is both profoundly exciting and potentially life-altering in its financial implications. It is absolutely essential to remember the context of these numbers. They are strictly internal simulations, predictive models, and not official, public commitments of the central bank. However, the indisputable fact that simulations of this scale are being run at all serves as powerful confirmation that the central bank is actively preparing for an adjustment of momentous financial significance. This testing also aligns perfectly with long-standing economic arguments put forth by specialists who have consistently maintained that the dong has been artificially undervalued for far too long, failing to reflect the country's economic reality. Vietnam's exemplary export growth, its undeniable manufacturing success, the intense, continuous foreign investor interest, and the rapid expansion of its domestic middle class all serve as compelling economic evidence supporting the thesis that the currency should logically be worth substantially more than its current valuation suggests. A formal revaluation would finally reconcile the official monetary value of the dong with the powerful, underlying economic strength of the nation, a necessary step for its continued global integration. The memo makes it explicitly clear that the planned change is far from a symbolic or minor adjustment. It is a fundamental, structural shift designed to establish an entirely new financial standard for Vietnam's currency moving into the future. The memo dedicates a specific section to detailing the comprehensive banking system upgrades that have been executed quietly, shielded from public scrutiny. According to the leaked intelligence, Vietnamese financial institutions have already successfully completed multiple, extensive rounds of internal updates to their digital platforms and core infrastructure. This ambitious work includes the complete upgrading of core banking software, the significant improvement of real-time rate display platforms, the strengthening of stringent cybersecurity procedures, and most importantly, the complex coordination of cross-border system compatibility with various foreign financial institutions across the globe. These massive system updates are not standard operating procedure for routine maintenance or minor regulatory changes. They are, almost exclusively, undertaken in direct anticipation of a monumental financial event, an event that will require absolute accuracy, instant reflection, and unwavering stability across all systems. Banks worldwide have taken painful lessons from previous, less organized revaluations, learning that digital preparedness is not optional, but an existential requirement for success. When exchange rates undergo such a dramatic and rapid change, every automated teller machine ATM, every online banking portal, every teller's terminal, and every international exchange system must instantly reflect the new, accurate value without delay. Even a minute lag or a small technical discrepancy can trigger widespread confusion, potential panic, or provide opportunities for financial manipulation. This is why the internal memo stresses that these updates are being conducted discreetly but with the utmost aggression and priority. Furthermore, it notes a significant increase in staff training over recent weeks, with employees being rigorously instructed on new transaction protocols, enhanced verification methods, and the responsible handling of what is projected to be vastly increased exchange volumes. This unparalleled level of preparation strongly suggests that Vietnam is determined to achieve a smooth, fully controlled, and entirely problem-free rollout of the new currency structure. The document even highlights that foreign banks have been formally notified of critical system compatibility requirements, which serves as a powerful indication that international currency holders will indeed be fully able to complete exchanges through their properly connected corresponding institutions once the revaluation is officially live. Taken together, these technical details paint an undeniable picture. Vietnam is not planning a slight rate adjustment, but a total, system-level transformation demanding absolute, global coordination. A particularly fascinating element within the leaked memorandum is the explicit comparison drawn between Vietnam's anticipated changes and the currency reforms undertaken by other nations over the last decade. The document confirms that Vietnamese authorities have been diligently studying how other countries manage their own significant valuation shift, analyzing which strategies proved successful, which structural errors led to failure, and what critical lessons could be successfully applied to their own unique circumstances. This level of foresight is a crucial piece of information, revealing a deep determination on the part of Vietnam to proactively avoid the costly mistakes made by other nations attempting to modernize their currencies. For example, some countries encountered paralyzing problems such as long public lines, severe cash shortages, or widespread public confusion when new banknotes were introduced, while others struggled with a surge in counterfeit circulation or inefficient, contradictory communication between central and private banks. Vietnam appears fully committed to mitigating all of these historic risks. The memo outlines a calculated strategy for the rollout to be fundamentally quiet, intensely organized, and predominantly driven through the digital banking ecosystem, a decision made specifically to prevent physical bank branches from being overwhelmed by the initial demand. This digital-centric strategy is particularly shrewd and effective in a country like Vietnam, which boasts a very high rate of digital engagement and smartphone penetration among its populace. The document also subtly hints at thorough liquidity testing that is currently underway, a mandatory process to ensure that all banks possess the necessary financial resources to process the massive expected exchange volumes at the new, updated rates. Liquidity management has historically been a significant point of failure in past revaluations around the world, and Vietnam seems to have absorbed this lesson entirely. The memo's overall tone clearly emphasizes the national goal of executing a clean, orderly transition that is completely devoid of chaos, panic, or financial manipulation. This comprehensive, studied approach is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that the revaluation is not only a firm plan, but a highly and carefully engineered process. If successfully executed, the Vietnam Dong revaluation could easily become a textbook model for future global currency adjustments undertaken by developing nations. Another vital section of the internal document addresses the delicate issue of anticipated public behavior and how the government plans to strategically manage the reaction once the revaluation is officially announced and implemented. According to the document, Vietnam anticipates a very strong, immediate response from both domestic and international currency holders. Large volumes of individuals and corporate entities are expected to immediately attempt to process exchanges within the first few days and weeks following the activation of the new exchange rate. The memo explicitly states that this projected rush must be managed in an impeccably structured, calm, and orderly manner to prevent system failure. This necessity explains the internal emphasis on concepts such as tiered access, prioritized digital, first exchange mechanisms, the use of scheduled appointments for large transactions, and the controlled distribution of liquidity across the financial network. The document makes it clear that the central bank's core objective is to prevent widespread public panic and to ensure that every legitimate holder has a fair, organized opportunity to exchange their holdings without causing the financial system to break down under the strain of volume. An interesting point of anticipation noted in the memo is the projected surge in international exchange requests. This suggests that the Vietnamese authorities are acutely aware of how widely their currency is held and monitored by the global diaspora and international investment community. The document strongly stresses the critical importance of maintaining absolute stability, mitigating exchange rate volatility, and successfully avoiding any appearance of financial instability during the crucial revaluation window. This focus is a major reason why the entire rollout is designed to be as initially discreet and operationally quiet as possible. Full, national public announcements are planned only after the digital systems, domestic banking operations, and international partners are all fully aligned and tested. This measured, step-by-step approach has garnered significant attention from analysts because it demonstrates that Vietnam is preparing for a global financial reaction, rather than simply planning for a domestic monetary adjustment. This profound level of forward-looking global preparation far exceeds the typical planning associated with mere rumor or baseless speculation, confirming a truly serious strategic intent. One of the most powerful and externally verifiable confirmations contained within the highly detailed memo is the specific mention of direct, ongoing coordination between Vietnamese banks and major international financial institutions worldwide. This level of preemptive cooperation is universally regarded as an absolute prerequisite for any national currency revaluation that intends to genuinely reflect and capture its market strength on a global scale. According to the internal document, a number of significant international banking partners have already been formally notified regarding necessary system upgrades, anticipated compatibility requirements, and the expected fundamental changes to future exchange procedures. This level of deep, technical coordination is not something banks would ever engage in for minor regulatory updates or routine software maintenance. It is an operational commitment reserved only for the largest, most structural changes to a currency's fundamental structure. The memo explicitly explains that Vietnam's goal is to ensure that global banks can instantly and accurately recognize the new dong value immediately upon the revaluation's effective date. This involves synchronizing all digital systems, meticulously verifying new exchange codes, and strategically preparing the necessary liquidity channels to facilitate international transactions. This coordination effort also includes the implementation of advanced fraud prevention measures designed to safeguard the assets of both domestic and international currency holders. Coordinating so extensively with foreign banks is vital for one simple, unshakable financial reality. If the revaluation is not universally and globally recognized by all major institutions, the new exchange rate cannot effectively function on the international stage. The memo highlights a clear and stated desire for a completely smooth global transition, where every single bank involved in cross-border transactions is fully prepared well in advance of the event. This is the ultimate purpose behind the international testing that has reportedly already commenced. It is also why internal training manuals, updated software files, and precise exchange instructions have been discreetly distributed to a select cohort of institutions. The memo's message is clear and compelling. Vietnam is preparing for a globally relevant and internationally recognized revaluation, not a mere symbolic domestic modification. This commitment to international readiness serves as one of the strongest indicators that the planned currency update is inextricably linked to a much larger, ambitious, and long-term national financial strategy. Every major financial story, ultimately, reaches a final conclusion, often with an official confirmation or an emphatic denial. Yet, this story, driven by the emergence of this controversial memo, ends with neither. And that ambiguity, paradoxically, is precisely what gives it such enduring and powerful significance, because the mere existence of the memo, regardless of its ultimate authentication, has already irrevocably altered the narrative surrounding the Vietnam dong. It has successfully forced major financial institutions to escalate their monitoring of related conversations. It has compelled veteran analysts to rerun and recalculate their sophisticated projections. It has most tellingly made governments and central banks pay attention to a subject they universally prefer to keep hidden in the background, out of the public domain. But most importantly, this single document has fundamentally shifted public awareness. Individuals who previously never cared about the concept of global currency realignment are now actively paying attention. Investors who historically ignored developing frontier markets are now turning their gaze toward Vietnam. And ordinary viewers just like you, are now an essential part of a conversation that has historically been confined to the guarded walls of private financial institutions and government offices. If hypothetically the memo proves to be a fabrication, it was nevertheless crafted with such professional detail and technical acumen that its exposure ruthlessly highlighted glaring vulnerabilities within the systems of information control and secrecy. If, however, the memo is definitively proven to be real and authentic, then the global public has just witnessed the first, undeniable crack in a very large and high wall. A wall carefully constructed and maintained to keep such monumental financial decisions completely hidden until the final operational moment. Either way, this singular moment, defined by the leak, marks a crucial and indelible turning point in the conversation surrounding the Vietnam Dong. The world is now aware of the fundamental, underlying question about the currency's true value. And once such a massive question enters the public consciousness, the demand for definitive answers eventually becomes overwhelming and unavoidable. Whether the Vietnam Dong revaluation is still many months away, perhaps a few more years in the future, or is already covertly in motion, one stark truth remains absolutely clear. This internal document changed the story before anyone in power was fully ready for the change. And history consistently demonstrates that once a significant financial or monetary story reaches the public, it can never truly be forced back behind the curtain of secrecy again.